For decades, Disney wasn't just a company. It was this massive cultural institution, a true titan. But behind that magical curtain, a pretty serious story of decline has been playing out, and it's so big, so obvious, that even the Mouse House can't really hide it anymore. So today, we're going to break down how this entertainment empire started to show some major cracks.
It's hard to really wrap your head around just how invincible Disney felt. Millions of people didn't just watch Disney stuff, they trusted it. You grew up with it, you shared it with your own kids. It was a brand built on this promise of quality and creativity that, for the longest time, felt totally unbreakable.
So how does a company that's at the absolute peak of its power find itself in such a mess? To figure that out, we've got to look at the big strategic changes, the financial cracks, and the cultural disconnect that got us to this point.
All right, so to really understand the decline, we first have to understand what Disney was built on. And what's so important to remember is that this company wasn't built by playing it safe. Nope, it was built on huge, ambitious, and honestly, pretty terrifying creative risks.
This was the original idea, straight from Walt Disney himself. The focus was always on quality, on pushing what storytelling and technology could even do. The belief was simple. If you make something that's truly incredible, the money will just follow. It was a creative-first model, not a profit-first one.
And man, did this philosophy work. Back in 1937, critics were literally calling Snow White Disney's folly, thinking it would bankrupt him. Instead, it became the highest-grossing film of its time. That same risk-taking spirit is what gave us the Disney Renaissance in the 90s, with monster hits like Aladdin and The Lion King. Their animation team had a 75% box office success rate. That's a number that is just unheard of in Hollywood.
But after Walt was gone, and especially heading into the 2000s, that core idea, it started to change. You see, innovation is hard, it's expensive, and it takes guts. A whole new strategy started to take shape, and it marked this quiet but absolutely massive shift in what the company was all about.
And this, right here, is the big inflection point. Under new CEO Bob Iger, Disney made a pivot. Instead of building the next big thing from the ground up, they decided it was a lot easier and maybe safer to just buy it. The focus went from creating things internally to buying them from the outside.
And they went on this absolutely historic shopping spree. In just 6 years, Disney dropped over $15 billion to snap up its biggest creative rivals. First, Pixar, the undisputed king of modern animation. Then came Marvel, with its entire universe of superheroes. And finally, Lucasfilm, the home of Star Wars. They basically bought the creativity they didn't trust themselves to make anymore.
And look, on the surface, this was a brilliant strategy. For the next 10 years, Disney completely dominated the box office. But if you look just a little bit closer, you see a totally different story. That dominance, it wasn't built on Disney's own ideas. It was built on the genius of Pixar, the incredible world-building of Marvel, and the pure nostalgia of Star Wars. All things they had bought, not created.
And this number right here just says it all. In 2 entire decades, from 2001 to 2021, Walt Disney Studios itself only created 3 original billion-dollar films. Just 3. With all the money in the world and thousands of employees, they made a tiny fraction of the original classics Walt created with just a small team. That's what creative bankruptcy looks like. A company so busy managing what it owns that it forgets how to build anything new.
Well, eventually, a strategy that's all about buying instead of creating, it starts to show cracks. The well of existing ideas begins to run dry, and the financial and creative fallout becomes impossible to ignore. It all just snowballs into this perfect storm of decline.
The market definitely noticed. The company's stock just took a nosedive, dropping almost 60% from its peak in 2021. We're talking about over $100 billion in shareholder wealth that just, poof, vanished in a few years as confidence in the company's future just evaporated.
And then there's the big streaming gamble. Disney Plus was supposed to be the future, but it has been a financial black hole, burning through a jaw-dropping $11.5 billion in just 5 years. That is the biggest streaming loss of any platform in the world.
But the most visible symptom has been right there at the box office for everyone to see. The list of huge, expensive failures is just catastrophic. Lightyear, Strange World, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, The Marvels, each one losing hundreds of millions of dollars. In 2024 alone, Disney lost over $1.2 billion on its films, the worst performance in its entire history.
But this isn't just a numbers story. Maybe the most damaging part of this whole thing has been the breakdown of the relationship between Disney and its core audience. The problem became cultural.
So, as the movie started to bomb, this real disconnect started to grow. While some people inside the company were blaming the failures on political backlash, a huge part of the audience was pointing to something much simpler, a drop in quality. They were talking about lazy writing and a real lack of respect for characters and stories they loved.
And the numbers, while they really back up what the audience was feeling, The Marvels wasn't just a flop, it became the lowest-grossing movie in the entire history of the MCU. The Star Wars show, The Acolyte, got one of the worst audience scores ever for the franchise. Heck, even a simple trailer for the new Snow White movie got hit with massive negativity. This wasn't some small group of people. This was widespread rejection.
So here's the crucial point. The audience no longer just assumes that a Disney logo means quality. That sacred trust, the one that was built over 100 years of amazing storytelling, has been broken. And as this quote says, rebuilding that kind of trust is a monumental task. It's going to take a lot more than just a few hit movies.
So, faced with these staggering losses and a fanbase that feels pretty alienated, the company has finally been forced to look in the mirror and confront its failures. The big question now is, can they actually fix this?
Well, CEO Bob Iger himself has come out and publicly admitted they just made too much stuff too fast, especially for Disney+. He said this fire hose of content watered down the brand and led to a major drop in quality. So the new public focus is a return to a classic Disney idea, quality over quantity.
And we are seeing the first real steps. It's not just talk. Pixar has said they're going back to making original films. Marvel is slashing its Disney Plus output by a whopping 75% to focus on fewer, better projects. Lucasfilm is rethinking its entire game plan, and the parent company announced a massive internal restructuring. So yeah, they know they went way too far.
But the biggest challenge isn't just about making better movies. The real problem is that Disney seems to have lost its identity. For 100 years, you knew what it stood for: timeless, emotional stories about struggle and triumph. Today, what does it stand for? For a lot of people, it's just become about endless remakes and corporate messaging.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question. The fall of Disney isn't just a business story. It's a warning about what happens when a creative empire loses its soul. The path back is actually pretty simple to say, but incredibly hard to do. They have to earn back our trust, one great story at a time. The real question is, can they actually do it?